This is Bob Upker again at Main and Akron in downtown Dallas. And the first red lights are now visible coming far down the street, just having now turned right-hand onto Main off of Harwood. And the large police escort is now ahead of the presidential motorcade. Buses are pulled over to the side of the street, and the crowd is surging forward to close in somewhat on the leading cars. There are 5, 6, 7 motorcycles still here in front of the first cars. And the crowd at our point is surging forward. There's a big cheer going up as the president gets further down. And now the ticker tape and other confetti and such is beginning to flow from the windows all over the large buildings here and engulf the entire motorcade. Here comes the first car with Police Chief Jess Curry and Sheriff Bill Decker. And here is the President of the United States. And what a crowd, what a tremendous welcome he's getting now. We can, and there's Jackie. She's getting just as big a welcome. And the crowd is absolutely going wild. This is a friendly crowd in downtown Dallas as the President and the First Lady pass by. There is Lyndon Johnson and Lady Bird passing by in the second car behind Moore. And here come the congressmen in their automobiles. And there comes the press. They're shooting the entire crowd as they move along here. Here is KRLD's cameraman Jim Underwood along with others and more press people coming by. As we can see, the presidential limousine even further down the street. It's a tremendous welcome, not a placard in downtown Dallas. And here comes the White House press. The big chartered bus is now arriving. And more limousines. The entire motorcade is now being, as we can see the rear of it, it's the crowd's closing in behind the motorcade. And up ahead of the motorcade, far down the street towards Simmons Freeway, we can see the crowd is absolutely going wild, and there's more ticker tape falling out of the windows. There are people absolutely looking from every window here in downtown Dallas, and it was a wonderful welcome as the President and Jacqueline Kennedy passed our point at Main and Akron. The latter part of the motorcade has just passed, and now the entire Main Street is completely filled from building to building with people, and they're following the motorcade down towards Simmons Freeway. The people really enjoyed that one glimpse of the President of the United States and Jacqueline Kennedy. They're going further down, and just about now, as we can see, far, far down Main Street towards Simmons Freeway, the motorcade is just about to reach the location of the county courthouse. And the people are still running down Main Street following the presidential motorcade. The enthusiastic welcome that broke loose here at Main and Akron has followed the president all the way through, and thousands of people who were crowding the streets here are following the motorcade even further down Main Street towards Simmons Freeway. It was a wonderful welcome for President Kennedy and Mrs. Kennedy. There was certainly no adverse demonstration. It was a tremendous welcome that Big D gave our chief executive. The presidential motorcade is now just far out, almost out of our sight, and the only thing still visible above the heads of thousands upon thousands of people who are still following the motorcade down Main Street towards Simmons Freeway, just the very top of the big buses carrying the official party and the congressmen as well as the White House press. It was a tremendous welcome here in Main and Akron and all along Main Street in downtown Dallas. And now gradually the crowd is beginning to thin out at our location, and we can see a little bit of traffic beginning to move far down to the east on Main Street. And those who are following the presidential caravan are just about out of sight now too, and most of the crowd at our point are going back to their respective jobs and wherever they have to be on this particular afternoon. A wonderful welcome having been given to the president here in downtown Dallas. It was quite a spectacle, one that Dallas won't see for a long time to come. And any fears that might have existed in the minds of some about the alleged small handful of people who might have launched severe demonstrations to mar the president's visit, these were apparently unjustified, or at least taken care of in good order by the Dallas Police Department, who had such a tremendous force in evidence at the downtown areas and all over the city of Dallas as the motorcade moved through, that there was no danger whatsoever and none in evidence of adverse reactions to the president's visit. a completely overwhelming welcome for the President. Now, this is Bob Huffaker in downtown Dallas, returning you to Jay Hogan at KRLD Studio.
That winds up the more than 1 hour long broadcast of the arrival of the President from Fort Worth to Dallas, the motorcade downtown, which is now wending its way up Stemmons and will be at the Trade Mart in a matter of minutes. And KRLD will pick up the broadcast later in the afternoon after resuming our regular program.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas were both hit by a would-be assassin's bullets as they toured downtown Dallas in an open automobile a short while ago. That is the latest word that has just come in from Dallas on United Press International. The Associated Press in its first report says that President Kennedy was shot just as his motorcade left downtown Dallas. Mrs. Kennedy, who was riding with him, jumped up and grabbed Mr. Kennedy and cried, "Oh no." The motorcade sped on. Riding in the same car with the President for this particular motorcade was Governor and Mrs. John B. Connally, the Governor of the state of Texas. According to the last report, both the President and the Governor were hit by the bullets. And now one more ad has come in. The President, his limp body cradled in the arm of his wife, was rushed to Parkland Hospital. The Governor was also taken to Parkland. Clint Hill, a Secret Service agent assigned to Mrs. Kennedy, escorted the President into the hospital, and we are awaiting further word on his condition. An Associated Press photographer, James Altkin, said he saw blood on the President's head. He said he heard 2 shots but thought someone was shooting fireworks until he saw the blood on the President. The photographer, Altkin, said that he saw no one with a gun at the time. This is the latest we have at our CBS News headquarters in New York. We now resume our regularly scheduled program.
And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. As I read this, I just thought, how foolish Daniel would have been if he had played.
Interrupt this program now for a special report from Jim Underwood at the scene of the shooting.
I was in a car 7 cars behind the President during the parade from Love Field through downtown Dallas. As the car I was in made the turn at Elm and Houston and started down for the triple underpass, I heard 3 loud shots seemingly from right over my head. There was so much confusion with people running. I thought at first that some of the spectators farther down the street toward the Elm Street underpass had been hit. I saw many of them throw themselves flat on the ground, and the police officers started blowing whistles and running for the scene. I leaped out of the car I was in the parade and ran for the scene also. Then the chase, and it actually was not a chase at the time, but the crowd started streaming through the railroad yards just past the Texas School Book Depository building. They searched through train cars and through the road yards, could find no one, and then the police officers found an 11-year-old colored boy named Eunice, that was his last name, who said that he looked up after the first shot and saw a colored man lean out of about the 4th floor window of the Texas School Book Depository building and fire 2 more shots. The police are now surrounding the area down here. Sirens are screaming. And evidently, police believe that the man who fired the shots is still in the Texas School Book Depository building at the corner of Elm and Houston in downtown.
We return you now to our regular program.
Man of God. So he handled the innkeeper with this same spirit. They weren't playing games. They really meant to get rid of him. And if they had their way, they were sure enough going to kill him. And so they had him thrown into a den of lions. But the angel of the Lord interfered and kept Daniel that night. And the story went, the king was upset about the...
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
This is Alan Jackson reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York with more details on the incident which just occurred in Dallas a short while ago, where President Kennedy has been wounded by a would-be assassin. He and Texas Governor Connally were shot from ambush as their motorcade drove through Dallas shortly after the President arrived in the city on the 2nd day of his tour. One of our correspondents on the scene is now in contact with us, so let's switch now to news correspondent Dan Rather in Dallas.
police have just confirmed that Texas Governor John Connally also was shot at the same time as President Kennedy, as the two men rode in the same car in a motorcade from downtown Dallas toward the Dallas Trade Mart, where President Kennedy was to have made a speech. Pandemonium broke out at the scene of the shooting as 3 shots emerged from somewhere in the crowd. The crowd along the route of the motorcade was 4 and 5 lines deep. At the time of the shooting, the motorcade was passing at least 3 buildings, more than 3 stories. One child, aged 7, told authorities that he saw a man lean out of the 5th floor of one of the buildings and fire the shots. Police and Secret Service agents now have that building surrounded and are going through the building in a systematic search. Still, another witness at the scene said this man was an adult, said he thought he saw a man and a woman crawling along a walkway over the motorcade route, and that this adult said it was possible that that man and woman could have fired the shots. Dallas police say they have no information on the condition of either President Kennedy or Texas Governor John Connally. Several reporters who were in the motorcade said that Mr. Kennedy had blood on his head as he was taken into an ambulance and rushed to Dallas's Parkland Hospital, just a few blocks from the Trade Mart where he was to have made the speech. This is Dan Rather in Dallas, Texas.
And a late word, Texas Congressman Albert Thomas says he has been informed that both President Kennedy and Governor Connally are still alive after having been shot in an assassination attempt. That is the first word we have had to that effect. Congressman Thomas says he has been informed that President Kennedy and Governor Connally are both still alive after the shooting attempt a short while ago. Thomas, standing outside the corridor of the emergency room in which both the President and Connally are under treatment, said he has been told the President is still alive but is in a very critical condition. President Kennedy is in a very critical condition after the attempted assassination in Dallas, Texas, less than a quarter of an hour ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt CBS momentarily for a local bulletin with Joe Scott.
Thank you. We're down here at the scene of the current manhunt. There must be over 24 squad cars blocking the intersection of Elm and Houston Street. Steve Perringer just returned from the building where they think they have this man surrounded, or where he shot from, and they found 4 shells on the... What floor was it on, Steve? Joe, Jerry Hill with the Dallas Police Department just leaned out a window there. It looked to me like he was on the 4th floor, and told police to call the Dallas Crime Laboratory to the scene. Apparently they found some shells there in that room here in the Texas School Book Depository building at Elm and Field Street. So other police officers currently have the scene surrounded, while still more with shotguns are searching out the building at this time. But there have been some shells found, I believe, on the 4th floor in the police crime lab, currently en route to the scene as the search continues. All right, this building, the window from which they were fired from, is a block away from the President's motorcade route. Elm, Main, and Commerce are the streets. He was on Main. This building is on Elm. They have brought the fire department rescue squad to the scene. We now have several witnesses being taken to Sheriff Bill Decker's office for further questioning. A fire truck is here. They're fixing to put a ladder up to the building to continue their search at this point. So far, no one has been apprehended, but more than a score of Dallas policemen are standing with riot guns or shotguns poised on their hip, ready and looking upward. This is Joe Scott from the scene, now returning you to KRLD News. Further reports when they're available.
And now to CBS.
Gave reporters a description of what he saw as the President was shot and as his car followed the presidential limousine from downtown Dallas to the hospital. Senator Yarborough told newsmen that he heard 3 shots. He did not see where they came from, but he thought he heard 3. He said he then saw a Secret Service man beating his fist on the President's limousine. Senator Yarborough told newsmen it was too horrible to describe, but he did tell reporters that both Governor Connally and the President were gravely injured. He said that the President appeared to have been shot in the head.
The governor, as we heard a moment ago, has been taken into the operating room. The President remains in the emergency ward of the hospital, and one Secret Service man was overheard telling another that there was no need to move the President because emergency facilities are entirely adequate in the emergency room. But as we have heard from correspondent...
And now we take you to a KRLD Mobile News Unit and Bob Huffaker.
This is Bob Huffaker. I am at Parkland Hospital along with Warren Folks for KRLD News. What was a wonderful welcome in downtown Dallas has become a scene of indescribable horror as hundreds of people crowd outside the back door to the emergency room here at Parkland Hospital. Faces are ashen white, and people are wondering, is our president going to live?
Both the president and the governor were shot. Both apparently were hit in the head. The initial reports say the president...
And now we interrupt CBS and go to Steve Perringer.
Intersection of Field and Elm Street. Officers and Secret Service agents, apparently Secret Service agents, have just taken a man who appears to be about 25 years of age into custody. He's been taken to the Dallas County Sheriff's office. He was arrested across the street here where he stood in a large crowd. The man, as we said, about 25 years old, denied any knowledge of the shooting. He said that he had gone to the depository merely to use the telephone. Other radio reports filtering in here at this time indicate that officers also have another suspect north of this location that they are checking out. A flurry of activity here. The Dallas Fire Department currently on the scene. Shotgun-armed officers completely around this school book depository building, searching it out. As we told you earlier, Jerry Hill with the Dallas Police Department yelled from a fourth-floor window that he had found some cartridges, spent cartridges, in a fourth-floor room. So that's about the wrap-up from here, Jay. This 25-year-old suspect has been taken to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office for further questioning. Steve Perringer reporting for KRLD News.
And now we return you to CBS.
And speaking at principal points around the state. The shooting occurred a short time after the presidential party arrived in Dallas. And as we have heard from correspondent Rather, apparently it took place from the 5th floor of a downtown office building where police and security agents have now found 4 spent cartridges, presumably those that were used in the assassination attempt. The building has been surrounded. We do not have any word on whether any people have been apprehended and linked directly with the shooting yet. There is an unconfirmed report that Vice President Lyndon Johnson had been wounded slightly. One spectator said he saw Johnson walk into the hospital holding his arm, and a short while ago, Mrs. Johnson was escorted by Secret Service agents into the emergency room where the president is. Police say they do not know whether the vice president was in that room at the time. But now we have this latest report, an unconfirmed one, that the Vice President Johnson was wounded slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States is dead. John F. Kennedy has died of the wounds received in an assassination in Dallas less than an hour ago. We repeat, it has just been announced that President Kennedy is dead. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, is dead at the age of 46, shot by an assassin as he drove through the streets of Dallas, Texas, less than an hour ago. Repeating this, the President is dead, killed in Dallas, Texas, by a gunshot wound.
And now we take you to Parkland Hospital and Bob Huffaker.
We're at Parkland Hospital where the horrible announcement has just come that our president is dead. No one wants to say anything on an occasion like this, but someone must have something to say. We have here with us Fort Worth Congressman Jim Wright. Mr. Wright, do you have something to say?
We have just learned that our president is dead. This is a sad day, a day of grief, a day of shame for this land. That anyone would hate, that anyone would seek to kill the President of the United States. We must strive anew to rebuild our faith and our hope. May merciful God console his loved ones and his family. May that same God bless this land, that from this moment of such deep grief, we may rebuild in faith and not in fear, and love and not in hate. I know the nation mourns and will deeply mourn those of us who were with him today when he was so alive, so buoyant, so outgoing, exposing himself to the public. Will never forget this experience and will always remember him as the president who went to the people, not fearing to expose himself, his person, his safety, his own repose, to his land and his people. It is tragic that in this free land anyone would so learn to hate in his heart that he would seek to take violently into his hands this kind of an act. But it has been done. There is still in this land the fiber to rebuild on a basis of respect for duly constituted authority, and we must do it. We must not panic.
God bless you, Congressman Wright. Still here at Parkland Hospital, even though the announcement has been made to newsmen. Some people are still unaware what has happened, and momentarily people will rush up to us. When Congressman Wright began to cry a short while ago, people began to rush over to our mobile news unit and say, what has happened? What has happened? How is the president? We had to say what had happened. People are standing outside this emergency entrance to Parkland Hospital and weeping bitterly. Senator Ralph Yarborough, Congressman Ray Roberts. We can see Congressman Olin Teague of the 6th District. All are crying. None can express what they feel. The only question that remains in most of their minds, all they can say now, is how is John? They mean, of course, Governor John Connally. The latest word on the condition of Governor Connally, although no firm report has yet been made, the word is that Governor Connally was shot in the right upper chest. This is only rumor at this time and has not yet been confirmed. Still, the crowd awaits further news. The crowd waits with disbelief in their eyes. People are crying all around us. Newsmen who see death every day are crying. Congressmen, senators who love the president. A scene of indescribable sadness and horror at the emergency entrance of Dallas Parkland Hospital. This is Bob Huffaker for KRLD News.
We take you now to Wes Wise at the Trademark.
A few people are queuing into groups as the dining room has begun to empty. Along the walls, several women are crying, near hysteria apparently, but by and large the crowd has taken the news quite well. Only now are they beginning to learn the official word that our president is dead. Up until a few moments ago, they were not sure exactly what had happened. Then an announcement was made by Mr. Eric Johnson. He said approximately the following: I don't know how I can say it or whether I can. The president and the governor have been shot. Then there were moans from the audience. I have nothing but scant reports. As soon as I have anything definite, I'll tell you.
Lyndon Johnson, although he has not yet taken the oath of office, is now, at the age of 55 years old, the 37th President of the United States.
Dallas, I think we might emphasize here that the Vice President was not injured in the shooting today. There had been one report earlier that he might have been injured slightly, that he had entered the hospital holding his arm. Vice President Johnson's wife, after a quick check on conditions in the hospital, said that her husband was unharmed. He was not shot.
Alan, we now have the name of that suspect who has been picked up by Dallas, Texas police in connection with the slaying of a Dallas policeman. This story says the Dallas Police Department has arrested a 24-year-old man identified as Lee H. Oswald in connection with the slaying of a Dallas policeman shortly after President Kennedy was assassinated. Oswald is also being interrogated to see if he had any connection with the slaying of the president. Oswald was pulled screaming and yelling, according to this story, from the Texas Theater in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas. This story does not say that Oswald is the man wanted in connection with the slaying of the president. It says that he is wanted in connection with the killing of a Dallas policeman. This policeman may be the Secret Service agent who was referred to earlier as being the man shot and killed at the same time that the president was assassinated.
And now here's Jay Hogan from the KRLD newsroom.
In the public interest, this broadcast, requested by the telephone company, represented by spokesman and official Mr. Will Rogers, appealing to the public, appealing to the concerned public, but not to telephone Parkland Hospital. Please do not telephone Parkland Hospital. All the trunk lines are jammed, and it's interfering with necessary communications with Parkland Hospital. Public of Dallas, please do not call Parkland Hospital except in case of extreme emergency. This request, broadcast by KRLD from the telephone company.
And now we take you to Bob Huffaker.
We're speaking once again from Dallas Parkland Hospital. There are still a number of congressmen seated in cars and in some of the buses that were brought immediately to the hospital. None are saying very much at all. Few can find the words to describe what they feel at this time. Most of them say, there's nothing. There's nothing to be said. There's a flurry of movement now. And from the rear of the hospital comes first the lead police car and two following motorcycles. Here comes a white hearse, which is leaving the hospital, followed by cars full of Secret Service men, and one last motorcycle. From our vantage point here, we do not know if this was the body of the president. We can only wonder. And now that the hearse is past, the crowd is breaking up. And people are wandering away. Still wondering. Still disbelieving. Still shocked. There are people weeping. There are people in dead silence. But this is one of the quietest crowds that will ever assemble. A crowd with pity, sorrow, horror, and shame in its heart. For this was the day that the President of the United States died from an assassin's bullet in Dallas, Texas. There's nothing left to be said. This is Bob Husker reporting from Parkland Hospital for KRLD News.